My name is Crystal Backus from Exo Art Studios, and I'm an artist. One of my favorite mediums is watercolor, and I just wanted to take you through some of my processes and protocols that I went through when I was creating a commission for a client recently. My client was a young professional from the Caribbean. She lives here now, but her roots and her culture and her heritage is from the Caribbean, and she reached out to me because she'd been looking at my art online, and she decided that she wanted some of my art and her own personal piece to put in a very important space in her house, her den and her guest room. I was honored, and I said of course I would do it. And so that's how me working on this piece for her came about. When my client received the pieces, she sent me a voice note telling me how incredible she thought the pieces were and how much she was enjoying looking at them. And she also added that her husband loved the pieces, which that's a bonus for me since it'll be in the house that they share. But the most important thing for me is that she was having an experience every time she looks at the artwork. That warmed my heart, and that was my biggest goal in creating those pieces for her. And so again, it was a wonderful journey. I loved working with her, and I loved the result of the effort that both of us put into the process. Now she has two beautiful, colorful pieces that represent her vision and her culture hanging in her den. This is a recording that my client sent me when she received her pieces. I just want to play it for y'all.
Hey Crystal, I received the pieces yesterday in email and we opened them last night, and it's just incredible. And it's just really incredible. I feel so fortunate. I feel so fortunate to have these in the house, and like you said, every time I look at them, I'm seeing something new, some new detail, right? It's unexpected and just fun, and they just really perfect, and Bill loves them. My half sister was visiting with her husband and kids, and they were all incredibly just put back about how beautiful the pieces are. So I just want to thank you again for such a wonderful journey, and for taking this project on and us seeing it through till the end, because it's really special.
My client was an absolute dream to work with. It was a beautiful journey. I want to go ahead and share some of the things she shared with me about her vision for the pieces. She shared that the pieces should represent life, they should represent beauty, they should represent the uniqueness of her culture. She's from Trinidad and Tobago, and they also should represent her love of flora. She has the most amazing green thumb. I've never seen anything quite like it. One of the things that is extremely important to me in the process of creating commissions for a client is getting to know them intimately, getting to know their likes, their dislikes, their hopes and their dreams, while keeping the vision that they shared with me in mind. From the information that I gathered from getting to know her, and also from what she shared about her vision, I developed 3 themes for her to choose from. And they were kind of like 3 boards that had imagery, color palette, just a look and feel that would give her an idea or something to start from to pick a direction. And those 3 themes were coastal, country, and blue. Turned out that she picked the coastal theme, which made me very happy, because if you look at my artwork, I love to paint coastal themes, sea creatures, ocean scenes, and so I was very excited about moving forward in that direction. And from the coastal theme, I developed 3 conceptual directions, and my client chose the land, sea, and culture direction, which again I was very excited about, because I also am from Trinidad and Tobago. I spent 8 years there when we moved there, and my parents are from there, and my family is from there. Trinidad and Tobago is very dear to my heart. I was ready to dig in. One of the beautiful things about the journey of creating commissioned art, at least my process of creating commissioned art with a client, is that at any point, if a client has questions about color or questions about some of the elements that will be included in the piece, I love for them to ask so we can explore that. For example, I showed my client a color palette that included greens, blues, and also orange. And she had a question about the orange. She couldn't really envision how the orange would work. And so what I did was I created a small watercolor sketch, including the colors from the palette that I showed her, and I showed her how the orange could work along with the rest of the colors in the palette, and that put her mind at ease. I then moved on to creating miniature sketches, because before I moved to large-scale painting or drawing, I prefer to work out, solve any problems that I might run into visually on a smaller sketch. I did that, and then I moved on to buying more supplies, art supplies that I needed. I wanted to make sure that I bought beautiful paper to work with, beautiful watercolor paper, high quality watercolor paper to work with, which I found at one of my favorite art stores. And I also wanted to get brushes and paints. Like, I love iridescent watercolor and any embellishments that I might need, like glitter and gold leaf, to add the finishing touches when I'm finished with the piece. I can't discuss this process without talking to you about what I think is the most important part, and that is my relationship with God and how that influences my artwork. I don't start any piece of artwork without going before the Lord and praying and asking Him to give me the creativity to direct my color choices, to direct my choices in imagery. And He never fails. And I also always pray over the artwork and ask God that whenever this person looks at the artwork that I've created for them, that they might have an encounter with God. It's no secret to me that visuals are very important to God. If you look in the Bible, you see Him directing craftsmen to make garments for priests, and He's extremely detailed in the type of garment, in the color of yarn used, and also in the little embellishments used. Like in Exodus 28:34, He talks about adding golden pomegranates to the hem of the garment, of the priest's garment. And so I recognize that God is very detailed, and in terms of visuals are very important to Him. I think it's very important for me to always seek Him when I'm creating artwork, especially if I'm creating a commissioned artwork for a client. I want for every time they look at that artwork, for them to see something new and for them to have an experience of joy and calm and peace. And then I moved into the process of actually creating the artwork full scale. I start with a blank sheet of beautiful watercolor paper, and I make an initial sketch with pencil, and then I add the paint. There were times where I sat for hours staring at the pencil sketch, wondering where I should put the color next and what color I should use. But it was worth it. The time spent contemplating the color and contemplating the intensity of the application of the color was all worth it. And then once the color is applied, I make sure that I scan it so that I have an electronic copy of the artwork. But then I go in and I add metallic watercolor and I add embellishments. I love glitter. I love gold leaf. Bling is wonderful. And then once all of that is complete and I'm happy with the piece, then I move on to framing it for my client. And we framed it with a simple white mat and a white frame that allowed the artwork to really pop out. And then I shipped it to her. The collection that I developed for my client is called Soar. And the two pieces within that collection are called Sweetness and Big Fish. With Sweetness, it represents the land portion of the theme Lancian culture. And it's some of the elements of that occur in nature that you will find commonly in Trinidad and Tobago, like beautiful hummingbirds, hibiscus flowers, gorgeous and very signature to Trinidad. And also elements like butterflies and things like that. Things that are commonly found on land, in nature, in Trinidad and Tobago. And then in contrast, Big Fish represents the sea portion of Trinidadian culture, and that includes a lot of the sea life found in Trinidad and Tobago. And in particular, I want to talk about the flying fish. That there's a bit of a controversy between Trinidad and Barbados. Apparently the flying fish like Trinidadian waters better. We'll take it, but there's there's always a back and forth in terms of who really owns the rights to flying fish. And I thought that would be a great element to include in the painting. And I think they both work well together as a collection. The third piece that I worked on for my client is the piece that was supposed to go into her guest bedroom. This piece is more abstract, but it still references a coastal theme, but it's more abstract. And so I centered it around different types of, I think they're called sea fans. I guess you would find those in a reef off a Caribbean island thing, but it was abstract and I think it came out really well. And I think the name of, if I remember correctly, the name of that piece is In the Sea. Comment and subscribe on this YouTube post or Instagram post.